The real-life inspiration for The Exorcist. We're diving into the terrifying details. The Exorcism of Roland Doe. In mid-1949, a number of newspapers reported an alleged possession and eventual exorcism of a boy known as Robbie, or Roland Doe. As The Exorcist became on the small screen, we look at the real-life tale of Roland Doe's possession that's more terrifying than the film. So, what actually happened to Roland Doe? It all began with a 13-year-old boy, a bookish child born to a German-American Protestant family. Family friends described the family as normal, but that all changed in the summer of 1948. Roland's aunt died and he began to hear weird scratching noises in the basement. The boy said he saw an image of Jesus in his grandmother's room twist and move as if someone was hitting the wall behind it. At first, the family thought it was mice and called in pest control, but what happened next left them in no doubt. This wasn't rodents. Roland's mattress moved violently in the middle of the night. There was a constant bashing coming from the basement, a smell of excrement flooded everything, and ordinary objects were suspended in the air. It wasn't just the family witnessing his attacks. A friend was in their house when the boy was sitting in a chair, and then quickly, without any warning, he was thrown from it and landed multiple feet away. It was the first time that someone outside the family had witnessed the weird incidents. Things started to go wrong at school. Roland's family removed him after teachers claimed his desk would move during class as well as objects. He was seen as a troublemaker. A fellow student explained what happened. The desk was shaking and vibrating extremely fast, and I remember the teacher yelling at him to stop, and I remember he kind of yelled back, "I'm not doing it." When Roland's mother walked in to find his bed shaking, they decided enough was enough. She tried to speak with what she thought was the spirit of Roland's aunt, imploring her to stop and asking her questions. She claims to have heard something scratching the mattress until it fell to the floor. The family, at their wits' end, and sure Roland was possessed by his dead aunt, turned to a Lutheran pastor, who, when he realized how bad things were, recommended they contact a Catholic priest. A local priest was sent, but Roland screamed at him in Latin, "O sacerdos Christi tu sismi esse diabolum, O priest of Christ, you know that I am the devil." Disturbed and shaken by what he had seen, the priest applied to the church to carry out an exorcism. Tests were held. As the church requires mental and physical evaluations to be done before exorcism can take place. The priests in the movie are based on real-life clergymen. The boy was taken to Georgetown University Hospital, a Jesuit-run institution, where he could be cared for. Rumors abounded, including that the priests wore rubber clothing under their cassocks as the boy kept urinating on them. Attempts to exorcise him began in earnest. In the middle of the first try, Roland broke free of his restraints and slashed one of the priests with a bedspring on the arm, maiming him for life. The records state that there appeared scratches on the boy's body for about 4 successive nights. After the 4th night, words were written in printed form. These letters were clear but seemed to have been scratched on the body by claws. Just 5 days after Roland had been brought to the hospital, he was whisked back home. Public record shows Roland stayed at the hospital under his real name and that medical and psychiatric evaluations took place, all coming back normal. Desperate, his parents decided to have him baptized, but on the way to the church, Roland turned on his uncle, who was driving, screaming, "You son of a bitch! You think I'm going to be baptized, but you are going to be fooled." While the movie keeps the girl in the house, Roland Doe was taken to psychiatric hospitals. Witnesses claimed that Roland thrashed about as the priest tried to carry out the relatively short service. When asked, "Do you renounce the devil and all his works?" he went into a rage and had to be restrained. Not long after Roland was checked out, the family moved to St. Louis. Whatever was possessing him seemed to agree, as Louis appeared written on his ribcage, despite his mother saying he had been under constant supervision, and no one had seen him do it. The possession was far from over. In his new home, the strange goings continued. Roland's mother dotted blessed candles around the house, but they were always snuffed out. In one instance, a comb shot across the room, striking the candles. Fruit flew across the room and a kitchen table overturned. Milk and food went flying from the counters. One time, a coat pulled itself from a hanger and a Bible landed at the boy's feet. Roland began to spin furiously in his chair. The family called upon another priest, Father William Bowden, 52, who found Roland in a terrible state. He recoiled from anything religious, spoke in a deep guttural voice, and lashed out. He was moved to a psychiatric ward in the Catholic-run Alexian Brothers Hospital. What occurred during his stay remained a secret for many years, as the church doesn't permit priests to talk about exorcisms. There had been rumors about a diary one of the priests had kept. According to The Guardian, William Bowden conducted more than 20 exorcism rituals on Roland in the span of 3 months. Writing in his diary on the 10th of March 1949, Bowden noted how Roland entered a trance-like state as 14 witnesses watched during one of his exorcisms. One day, a lecturer held a talk on exorcisms at Georgetown University where William Peter Blatty, the writer of the Exorcist novel and movie, was studying. The lecturer asked for a copy and eventually received an 16-page booklet called Case Study by Jesuit Priests. Blatty asked to see the document when he was researching, but was refused. Not giving up, Blatty came across another name, Father William Bowden, but he refused to comment. It was the end of the road for Blatty's research and, out of respect, he made a few changes to his book. Roland became a 12-year-old girl. Blatty did, however, use the violent outbursts and even added the crawling on the ceiling and the famous head spinning. His book topped the bestsellers list and remained there for 4 months. The story became legend. Apparently Fr. Bowden had spoken to someone, a fellow Jesuit. The story made its way to National Geographic writer Thomas Allen, who found Fr. Halloran, a priest who had assisted in the exorcism, who was willing to talk. Fr. Halloran, who had since moved away, was suspicious at first, but admitted there was a diary. In 1978, the truth was finally revealed. Workmen demolishing part of the St. Louis hospital, where Roland had stayed, were removing furniture. In a locked room, they discovered an official record of his visit tucked away in a drawer. It was passed to hospital supervisors who identified it as the work of one of the priests who had helped with the exorcism. While the manuscript had been locked away, Fr. Halloran had made a copy, which he gave Thomas Allen, who published his findings in 1993. It's the only record that's now publicly available. The document went into detail about those 4 nights the priests tried to exorcise Roland. Father William Bowden was called in. Fr. Bowden had read the rite, while the stronger priest Fr. Halloran, a former football player, held the boy down as he writhed and shouted at them. What made it more disturbing was the additional information. Blotched writing in what seemed to be blood appeared on Roland's skin. He was branded 30 times all over his body, including the words hell and hello. All the while, he apparently cursed and screamed obscenities in a voice that ranged from deep bass to falsetto. The priests asked him what he called himself. He shrieked, "I will answer to the name of spite." Roland vomited over the priests, and spat in their faces, farted and belched as well as contorting his body. One night the boy brushed off his handlers and soared through the air at Father Bowden standing some distance from the bed with a ritual book in his hands, one priest wrote. Presumably Bowden was about to be attacked, but the boy got no further than the book. And when his hands hit that, I assure you, I saw this with my own eyes, he didn't tear the book, he dissolved it. The book vaporized into confetti and fell in small fine pieces to the floor. A nurse spoke about the incident, saying the priests had a terrible time. He believed what happened was supernatural and added he'd cleared vomit out of the boy's room on several occasions. Weirdly, Roland was fine during the day, even playing board games with the staff or reading comics. There are detailed accounts of Roland's continued violent and weird behavior, from attacking people during his attempted First Holy Communion to punching a priest in the testicles when he tried to get him back to Maryland on a train. On April 18th, things finally came to a head. Fr. Bowden covered Roland in holy medals and a crucifix. He exploded in a rage and was detained by 5 people. Fr. Bowden demanded the spirit identify itself. Roland replied, "Satan. I am Saint Michael. I command you to leave this body now." Roland's body apparently went into a violent spasm. Suddenly, he was still. A smile on his face, he simply said, "He's gone." Some accounts claim the word exit appeared on his body only to disappear soon after. Roland was released, the strange goings-on stopped and he went on to live a normal life. He claims to remember nothing of what went on. What happened to Roland? Roland was a normal boy again. Later, he wrote to Fr. Bowden thanking him, mentioning his new dog and normal life. It was as if nothing had happened. He went on to attend a Catholic school and become a devout Catholic. He married and had 3 children. As to what really happened, Fr. Bowden took the full truth to his grave, but Fr. Halloran, the only one to really speak out about the exorcism, had the final say. When asked whether he believed it was real, he simply replied, "I have always thought in my mind that it was." In adult life, Roland, whose his name became Ronald Edwin Hunkler, was a NASA engineer whose work contributed to the Apollo space missions of the 1960s. Ronald Edwin Hunkler died in May 10, 2020, a month before his 86th birthday, after suffering a stroke at home in Marriottsville, Maryland.
Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If that's what happened, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more true stories.